Hey guys, what is up? Inksmith back again, now labeled as Scott Inksmith because YouTube has forced us to have handles. If you've wondered why I've had to kind of slightly change the channel name, it's still the same channel, still the same type of information, but I've had to go with a Scott Inksmith because you now need an @ handle here on YouTube, and they had donated the name Inksmith 0097 or something like that to me, and I'm not going to go with a series of numbers in my name. I'm going to try and stick to what identifies me best, which is Inksmith, and my first name Scott. So Scott Inksmith it is, and I hope you're okay with that little tiny change. I wanted to follow up on my video on Lasik. I also wanted to show my face because I got a bunch of new viewers. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the new viewers who showed up. If this is your first time visiting the channel or the Lasik video was your first one, I cover a lot of YouTubers who are caught up in some kind of scandal, and I usually wait until quite a bit of information is out to make sure I'm not just jumping on a story for the clout, that I'm jumping on the story to protect actual audience and viewers of YouTube from predators online. That's one of the main reasons I started the channel, because I've been doing YouTube since 2006. My original channel, I got up to 100K before I gave up on it for about 2 years, and I was kind of burnt out on YouTube. And when I came back, I knew I wanted to do something with the channel that was a little more helpful. I didn't want to get into, I guess, internet drama or debates that didn't really help bring the community to the pinnacle that it could be at. And I don't think I'm making massive changes or waves now with my new channel, but I feel like what its motive is at least clear and distinct in the fact that it looks to out predators online. In this case, the reason I did cover it was because there was official claims filed, allegations filed on November 3rd against Lasik, and it's for sexual assault against a minor while he was 17. I read all the papers today, and I've written some of them down here on my phone to make sure I don't get anything wrong. And I also wanted to update on some of the things I was confused about on the last video, such as the GoFundMe and what the sister was doing and why she was asking for money. But it turns out to be not so bad as far as her asking for money. So let's just go into that now. So first of all, in the last video, I talked about that Lasik, the person who actually first confronted him about what he had done, was his sister, Jessica. I called her Jessica. They sound almost exactly the same, and I did not look up the spelling, but it is spelled CH, Jessica. Jessica is the one who helped the cousin who is still unnamed. And I know people, they had a problem with that. They said, oh, if she really wants to make these allegations, why can't she be named? And it's victims' privacy rights. I mean, that's been around for ages. I'm not sure why people are confused by that. I don't think this lady needs loads of hate added on to the amount of trauma she's probably dealing with. And she's already being brave enough to come forward to prosecute Jared for something that happened in 1992. And now people are telling her she needs to risk her safety, her name, and her mental well-being by putting her name out there. How is that going to help the case? The case isn't going to be better solved. Her attorneys and the judge, the court, and the filing know her name. That's the only people that need to know her name in order to properly prosecute Jared in this situation. So that doesn't make me doubt her situation any, for her not releasing her name. There are still doubters out there, which kind of blew my mind. I wanted to say thank you to one of the commenters who said there's still 2 different channels that they mentioned that are still saying they don't believe it until Jared actually goes to jail, which I guess to some extent I can understand. But I had a mother who worked in a government position. I'm not going to say exactly what. And I still have a cousin, and I still have my mom too. They're not deceased. And my cousin works in law as well. And she actually originally started with cases that dealt with bank fraud and then went into child protection. And she says they don't ever launch these kind of cases. The DA, the district attorney, I believe it's San Pete County, wouldn't launch something like this unless they had almost a slam dunk case. That means they have a lot of evidence. People are coming out of the woodwork and saying like, well, where's the evidence out? Usually cases don't share all the evidence they have online. You know, they have to share it during the discovery period of launching a case within the court system, but I'm not sure why they would share it with people they don't know online. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. There's a lot of cases where reporters and other news organizations call and they just say it's currently a case we're working on, we can't disclose anything at this time. So they're not just walking into court and saying, well, I heard from his cousin that a bad thing happened. That's not quite how court cases work. Yes, you do need to come with evidence, and no, not all the evidence is delivered to the public. That's a silly thing to think, that you're owed the evidence by the victim in order to believe the predator. I don't understand that logic. I can understand saying you want to wait to judge until the case is over. That's fine. I mean, we don't truly know what's going to happen. But what I do know is that on November 30th, he is going to be taken to court. He is going to be prosecuted. Hopefully they have all the information they do need to properly go through with this. Again, like I said, my cousin who works in law enforcement and in the child protection area of law enforcement, I don't know what her official title is, but she said, there's usually a lot of background material and multiple victims in the past when somebody does something like this. And even though they're probably going to bring up the initial filing as to the allegation as why he's being brought to court, there's probably going to be other evidence from other victims as well who were, you know, not willing to come forward to the public and talk. So that may be another heavy amount of evidence that we're not seeing in the public right now. So, I mean, I guess I can hold my judgment too. He's definitely, you know, done criminal things in the past. So whether this case ends without him being convicted, his entire disposition is shaded now by the horrible things he's done in the past. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's been arrested multiple times for threatening violence on people, for, you know, fighting with police officers, all different types of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, okay. Maybe they don't have the amount that they need, but this guy, we found out quite a bit about who he really was behind the scenes. And even before we would have known this would have looked really bad on him, all the other criminal filings he has against him. He's got a pretty long rap sheet to begin with. Jessica, his sister, even came forward herself and said, we were really crazy kids. Like, we did some really bad stuff in the past. And it's funny how he's trying to play the hero now, because both of us did a bunch of crazy. She said she's been arrested a bunch of times too, and that they used to steal a bunch of stuff from Walmart and all these other things. There's an interview with her and the cousin, and they just call her the hero. The cousin, they just call the hero. And I think it's something you should definitely watch to make sure you understand the full story. Speaking of the full story, the money that we were talking about, I was a little bit concerned because I had heard that the sister, Jessica, had created a $1 million GoFundMe for the case. And I thought, like, okay, I'm sure it's not totally free to prosecute Jared, but I also don't think it costs $1 million, especially when the district attorney is the one going after. It turns out this was kind of a poorly planned joke of a sort. It started out that she made this in jest to say, well, if you have $1 million from being a predator and starting a YouTube channel and buying a $1 million house, which he does do like a full walkthrough and a like, come check out my crib type video of his $1 million house that he earned from doing YouTube. She in turn wanted to mock him by making a $1 million GoFundMe. She didn't actually plan to collect any money from it, but her cousin, the true hero of this whole thing, came out and said, like, hey, look, this is not cool. Probably a lot of people aren't going to get that joke. I understand what you're trying to do. I understand how you're trying to mock Jared because you're unhappy with what he's done in the past. I am also very unhappy, of course, but I don't think this is the right type of thing to do. The sister immediately apologized and took it down and explained it to everybody. So while I understand the motive and I understand why she was so angry as to start such a thing, to make a statement, I think sometimes emotionally we do things that are irrational, especially when it's a very drastic situation. So I think the fact that she could come out and admit, like, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have put this up, it wasn't something to joke about, I'm just angry at Jarrett and how he's made money off of his viewers after doing disgusting things in the past, which I can understand. So, I mean, I think that's a situation where emotion was acted on and not a lot of logical reasoning. So I think she's come forward and admitted that pretty well. Let's see what else I got here. Oh, the other question I had from viewers was, did his fellow teammates know exactly what happened? That apparently if those emails were open to the public, because if you remember, these emails that were sent to Jarrett were sent to the whole AWP crew, and they were on an open, I guess, LAN network within their business that everybody could read everybody's emails. And so Jarrett said, like, I'm not scared of anybody finding out what happened. They can read the emails that you and I are having between him and the cousin, and because they know this, then they know the full details. And I've come forward, and it's his way of putting it was, it's unfortunate what happened in the past. It's like, yeah, I would say unfortunate is a very light way of appraising what happened in the past. But it turns out the emails were very vague. I mean, if you go back and you read them yourself, she's trying to come right out and say exactly what happened. And Jarrett pretty much responds with things like, it's unfortunate. The things that happened in the past were very bad, and I've come to terms with them. I hope you have too. And he never admits to anything. It's these very vague workarounds where he does sort of word battle with her, trying to escape the allegations against him. And he, of course, probably did let the team read them, because later when they did ask him, they said, hey, now all these allegations are coming out. Are these all true? Like, did you really do all this horrible stuff back in the 1990s? And his only response to them, according to almost every team member, was, the emails you saw at our business are my public statement. So they really weren't happy with that. They're kind of like, okay, I mean, none of them are dumb enough to think like these workaround or these wiggle words are a complete statement, just saying things like, it's unfortunate. Like, none of them are descriptive. None of them examine what exactly happened. None of them admit to anything. I mean, I guess if I just tried to take every bad thing I've ever done in my life and say, all those things are unfortunate, but I'm a good person now, I don't think many people would respect that. I think you, to fully do time for your sins of the past, you actually have to admit what they are, explain what they are, and understand why you're being punished. If you just say, oh, those things are unfortunate, it just sounds like they were happen chance, like that, whoops, what a silly thing I did in the past. That's not quite how people are looking at this. And definitely the rest of the members of his team were led to believe that these were no big deal because of what they saw while they were working there. But when the real allegations finally got out and got public, they realized, wow, this is not just an unfortunate series of events. This is complete SA against a minor. So good on them for questioning him, and good on them for just leaving. The only thing I worry about is I really hope they themselves can start their own channels off and stay on top of whatever they were doing, and can continue to help people in the missing community and true crime and things like that. One thing I will say that I've decided I'm really disgusted by, and maybe I'll do a video in the future about this, is while I was trying to look up allegations against Jarrett in this case, there was people doing tarot readings. I have friends who do tarot. Tarot is fine if you really want to do it. That's great. Like, I think it's fun for a hobby. Maybe even some people do it for a job. But I feel like mixing tarot with people's crimes that affected people's lives in very severe ways is really disrespectful. Why are these two things being mingled together? These are based in non-empirical evidence, and one based in empirical evidence that must be brought to court in order to prosecute. I'm unsure why people are bringing tarot cards into actual true crimes. This is kind of a disgusting thing, and I'd kind of like to see it stomped out in the true crime community. I mean, that's kind of gross. It's a whole nother rabbit hole I won't get too deep into because it'll put me on a tangent that goes on forever. But in the future, I've got to cover this. I was even looking up other cases of like missing people and people who had been murdered by their SA attacker. And people doing tarot card reading. What is up with that? That's horrible. Or like psychic readings on people who've gone missing or died. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to go against anybody's spiritual beliefs or, you know, what they use to give themselves a sort of calm or solstice as far as, you know, mysticism, spiritualism, etc. But I feel like it's really disrespectful to pull out a set of cards and you think those can dictate what should be done and what somebody did in a very severe case that demands empirical evidence. Anyway, guys, that's just a quick update. I wanted to say thank you again to all the new viewers. I got over like 50 subscribers from that last video, which is huge for a tiny channel like me. I'd also like to say this marks exactly 1 year that this channel has been around. I hit almost 6,000 subscribers in 1 year. That's way more than I ever expected. I would have been really happy with 1,000 subscribers in the first year. So hitting almost 6,000 is something I hugely appreciate. And I know sometimes I make my statements very clear and what my thoughts are very clear. And I know there are still some people out there who watch my videos and don't agree with everything. Please know that that is always welcome here, okay? Everything I talk about is up for discussion. The only time anyone would ever be banned in any of my comments or be silenced is if they started to get like super racist or, you know, we're just stooping to calling people horrible names that don't help create dialogue around a subject. So please know, even if there's things I say within the video, like in the last one where you're like, oh, you got this a little bit wrong, or this is why this person wanted to put the GoFundMe up, that's totally okay. I welcome that every time. I'm very open to conversation. I don't lean heavily left or right. I don't lean heavily towards one religion or another. Yes, I am religious in my own way, but I don't think everybody needs to act and do as I do. And I think looking at worldwide perspectives and not generalizing things can really help in open our mind and track down a lot more of these predators online. Until next time, I've been Scott Inksmith, and I'll talk to you again real soon.